Hello, everybody, and welcome to Eternal Mooncast, Bishoujo Senshi Slumber Party. This time, we're going to start a new segment of the show called the React series. Sailor Moon has a long and rich history, but have you seen everything? I'm Michi, and these are my friends, Monica and Relia. We're three lifelong Sailor Moon fans who dove headfirst into the fandom and stayed there ever since. We love being a part of this amazing fan community surrounding the genre-defining series. For the first segment of the React series, we're going to be diving into the Deke dub. Timestamps will be in the description if you'd like to jump to a particular episode. Now, we know some of you may not have seen or even been born when the Deke dub came out. So, of course, you're going to want to watch with us. How we did try, and unfortunately, due to copyright, we're unable to put the Deke dub on Twitch or YouTube. So what we did is we put it on our Patreon. So if you'd like to check out full recordings of our live reactions, they're available on Patreon, which you can find linked in the description. Good tape player. I'm glad you're with us.
Legit. See, what you don't know is we were just talking about things that hurt before we went live. So it's all too real.
All right. And then just before we get started, always a quick Mooney disclaimer. These are just our personal opinions. We are in no way associated with Toei Animation or the Sailor Moon intellectual property in any way. We are just fans here having fun.
Yep. Just here to be stupid for your entertainment.
Edutainment at its finest.
Exactly.
Right on it. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the show tonight. So, from the Sailor Moon Wikipedia, Geek was the first company to own the rights to Sailor Moon anime in North America when they won the rights to the first two seasons in 1995 after striking a deal with Bandai, which means that we could all blame Bandai for this dub existing.
Of course. I don't know if I knew that or if I had known that and forgotten it, but when you brought it back up, I was like, oh, of course they did.
I think it's a fine tradition in especially children's media worldwide that the main goal of TV shows and movies is to sell toys. Once someone like Naoko Takeuchi makes a manga and that manga becomes popular, someone goes, I could sell a toy. And then they put money into making it into a TV show to sell some toys. So not surprising in the least, really.
I know it never got big. Sailor Moon toys were not really the rage over here. I feel like lots of people were really into the show and like all the other the comics and stuff like that. Do you remember it being in Smile magazine?
Yes. So a thing that I find very interesting, just as a side tangent, because you brought it up about merchandising for Sailor Moon in the US, other than like when I was in high school, I found one Sailor Moon t-shirt at Hot Topic and I bought it and I lived in it. It was like a baby doll tee with a little sparkly logo, but I lived for that shirt. Other than that, the merchandising in America was almost entirely designed for the American market. So if you look at a lot of the toys and things that were released in Japan, we didn't get them in US, but a lot of them are like higher quality, more detailed. The versions that we got in the US are like the sort of Barbie doll looking ones with the real hair that like a little girl can brush. A thing designed, I think, to appeal to what toy makers believe is more desirable in the American market. Because there's not a lot of crossover in terms of which toys were marketed to which audiences. And I think because there was to discuss one of the things that happened, which is that Sailor Moon in the US released first in Canada and then a couple of months later in the US. And one of the things that in mildly digging into this, i.e. Wikipedia, one of the things that you discover is that it got much better time slots in Canada because it had been dubbed in Canada and therefore it was considered a local product. And so they could pitch it to a more favorable time slot for a more appropriate audience. In the US, it initially premiered very early in the morning and at 2:00 in the afternoon. And those are both time slots that will absolutely shoot right past most of the people who the series actually did appeal to. So although it had obviously a core fan base of people who from the very beginning, we loved it, it struggled to do well in the US because it was given those very unfavorable time slots, even compared to Canada. And that's ultimately the lack of popular reception at the time to Sailor Moon is the reason why they didn't finish out the R season. it wasn't doing well. They decided to not continue with it.
It's wild. I pulled a classic where I started saying something and then didn't get to my point. But even though it didn't do well, I would really be interested in a The Toys That Made Us episode about that merchandising.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to know what went into the decisions, what was made, like how they marketed it. Cause you had things like there was like a moon cycle. You could this little go-kart for Sailor Moon, the toy that she could ride around in. Obviously, not in the
Not
show
the show.
in any way, but definitely there was a toy that she could just, and it was like a big crescent moon that she just like little go-kart that she could ride around in. And then obviously, I think, do you guys remember the Save Our Sailors campaign?
Yes, I was definitely signed up for that.
I was signed up for the Save Our Sailors campaign. So this was in the early internet, in the days of things like web rings, which if you've never heard of a web ring, you don't need to know now.
Congrats
but
on not having back pain.
Yeah, congrats on your young, vivacious joints. Back in the earlier days of the internet, a website sprung up called Save Our Sailors, which was essentially a large internet petition to try to get essentially Deke to come back and finish dubbing the incomplete R series, much less the additional seasons of the show. And actually, in an astounding move, this was successful. And General Mills actually stepped in. They were impressed by this movement and proceeded to then work with, they had, what was it called? The program exchange, where they got the rights to finish out the rest of R. This then aired on Toonami, where it was much more popular. Obviously, the series had picked up so much popularity among fans. And ultimately, that led to the Clover Way localization of S and Super S.
So everybody remember to thank everybody for getting a Sailor Moon dub for that. We have to thank General Mills.
We have to thank General Mills, but we also have to thank us, actual people that just didn't give up and believed that if we were just enthusiastic enough, maybe a corporation would notice us.
There's something so aggressively American about a cereal company saving.
I think we're all very similar to Tape Player, who has the memory. I do remember Sailor Moon getting the slot right next to Speed Racer on Toonami.
Yes.
We all have those embedded memories in our head.
I'm wake up at, no, this may be very regional. I may be about to say something extremely regional, which I think Relia will also be familiar with. But I wake up at 6:30 in the morning to watch Sailor Moon on a WB before Dragon Ball Z, before your bus comes. Years old. I'm that old.
Yep, I'm also that old. Sailor Moon in my local area did actually also air at 2:30 p.m. And so my high school, we let out at about 2:16. So I was like racing for the bus got me home. I would typically miss like the first 5 minutes, but I was like flying in the door to make sure, even though I had also watched Sailor Moon in the morning, I was flying in that door to make sure that I was catching the afternoon episodes.
All right. So shall we get into the episodes?
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh,
let's
and
get started.
By the way, I did research. We can play the intros.
Okay,
so
well, that's
we
great.
Play the intros and then offer the commentary. That way, if we have to cut the intro, we can cut that and still get our commentary on the intro.
Why don't we right now subject everyone to remembering what Fighting Evil by the Moonlight sounds like?
You say that, but also let's make them watch Moonlight Densetsu, because I have so many comments on both.
Yes. Don't worry, there wasn't actually a live show. We recorded a reaction and it's on our Patreon.
Yeah, we're trying to finance literally the hosting of the videos themselves.
Yes.
That's what your money is going towards.
Directly,
literally the fact that we have to use a paid service to host that video.
Yeah.
Because Sailor Moon copyright is no joke.
Apparently. Yeah.
Again, no pressure. Nobody, if they don't want to, they don't have to.
Oh, yes. For everyone watching along, if you want to watch the original, the Japanese, Viz has all 200 episodes up for free on YouTube. You can watch it subbed. I don't know if they have the English dub up or not.
I don't think they have their dub up. I think they just have the sub up there.
Okay, I thought it was dub on YouTube.
The dub is on Hulu.
It's on YouTube for sure.
Okay.
From Viz.
Well, we can put the links like in the chat or whatever if you want to watch, if you are interested in rewatching or doing your own comparison. I don't know where you're going to find the Deke dub. We had some ancient DVDs.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, it's DVDs from my childhood.
Yeah, ancient DVDs.
So this is just what I've heard. I've heard that the Deke dub will become lost media other than bootlegs because the people who hold the rights, like the company that holds the rights to it, no longer exists. So there's no way to get those rights to it. It's the situation is something like that, but it's very likely that other than buying bootlegs, which we would never recommend that anyone buy bootlegs because that would be wrong and we would never tell you to do that. But that there's no other way to get.
We're doing this as a preservation.
Yeah, like there was some interest in this was both because we wanted to injure ourselves, but also because we were interested in preserving the memory of this certain thing. Give us some Patreon and you can see the crawl and all of us like screaming, shouting, hooting, and hollering when it comes
every
up.
time the crawl comes up.
We're like the three little aliens from Toy Story.
So anyway, Fighting Evil by the Moonlight is actually a bop.
But
and it has a sick guitar solo like from the middle.
I don't say the same thing. We have to give credit to, and I'm not sure if all the songs, but the credit for the rescoring of the Deke dub is to a man named Bob Summers. I would like to give him full credit. The one thing
Bob
that
Summers,
I will go to the mat for, and I think we probably all agree, is that like universally all of the scoring and all of the like new songs for the Deke dub slap. Just they're all bops. They're all good. They were like they are in most cases they are just retreads with new lyrics of the Japanese songs, but they make them like very punchy and like upbeat, and they're just phenomenal. Just absolutely love them.
That is really interesting because I went and I think both of us went and watched the Japanese like right after it. So we watched both, so we can do an in-depth comparison of the two when we get to actually talking about the content of the episodes. Which was very interesting because I knew the Deke dub was censorious even before the gay stuff, and it's interesting how and what they choose to change. But like the Deke dub is completely rescored. None of the music is the same.
Yep,
and it makes me wonder if that was a rights issue.
I looked it up. From Sailor Moon Wikipedia.
Okay.
It was a
rights issue. Okay.
Interesting. You know what? They did amazingly with what they had to work
Bob, real hero here.
Genuinely, we love you, Bob. For the Deke dub opening, it is completely different in really interesting ways from the original Japanese opening. Obviously, not just the fact that they've rescored Moonlight Densetsu, but the ways in which they changed it that present the show in an entirely different way. The original opening is completely standalone footage. They don't use any footage that is in the actual show. It's all drawn for the opening. And it's this very visually high graphic, almost music video-esque opening where all of the backgrounds look like a combination of like carnival scenery and a child's drawing, as though Usagi herself were drawing doodles of her fantasy of what a moon kingdom might look like. It's very but if you look at the songs and the way that the lyrics have been changed, Moonlight Densetsu is extremely romance focused. The focus of the original opening is almost entirely on the star-crossed lovers angle between Serenity and Demi, and that is very much fully in keeping with the lyrics, which are quite beautiful. Obviously, because I don't speak Japanese, I've only read them in translation, but it is a very lovely, poetic take on their star-crossed relationship. And the visuals are, first of all, Jupiter and Venus are not in it. It is all Moon, Mars, Mercury, and then Tuxedo Mask. And the only time that there's only one single scene in which Beryl appears, one shot of like her grippy hand and then her like extending her arm and her army behind her. Other than that, there is no indication of villains, battle, combat. It is a very soft, you can see floral focused opening that
It's the Japanese.
we're playing it on screen so you can see a lot of these visuals, the way that it's all these like sort of carnival looking brightly colored backgrounds and then just thoughtful rose petal pictures of Usagi and Sailor Moon and the concept of dual identity and all of the Tuxedo Mask stuff. Also, can we please pause for right here? We're going to see a blimp in the background
Fish blimp.
Wait for the blimp that has fish scales, a rose, and a crescent moon. It's
I
coming.
love you,
It's
fish
coming.
blimp.
Here it
There's
is.
fish
Why
blimp.
is it there? We don't know, but we love it. It's just
It's a precursor to fish blimp.
someone felt that was important. This shot is interesting. Notice this is an unusual difference that I'm curious about. I don't know where you found this opening. On the Viz scene, that's actually shorter on the Viz version.
I found the originals.
Okay. The Viz version, you never see them come out of silhouette in that veil shot. They do it in the Deke dub. But in the Viz version, for some reason, that one piece of animation is sliced slightly short, and I don't know why Viz did that. Very interesting. But yeah, you can see this visual is very, very focused to only appeal to what an American audience would think of as a very feminine audience. Well, what I'm saying is the Japanese might not think of it that way, but to an American perspective, we would think, all right, if it's only focused on this romance angle and you're just showing shots of girls and flowers, that's probably appealing to little girls, is what I'm saying. I don't want to speak for the intent when it was directed towards the Japanese audience.
The video is from, so thank you. I always like to give credit.
Awesome. Perfect. Yes. Yep. When you look at the Deke version, the emphasis from the very first shot that you see is on,
There's the
oh my God, the crawl.
The crawl.
The crawl.
I worked at it.
The emphasis is on space monsters. It's on battle. You will see constantly, almost every shot is some sort of a battle shot or a scary monster shot. This is very much pitching the show in a different way. We want you to know that this is a fighting show. We also want you to know that this is a team show. They obviously made the specific choice to tell you, here's all the team members and show you lots more shots where you're going to see Venus and Jupiter.
I was today years old when I realized that this had reused the Deke opening had reused animation in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they just blatantly pulled it from different episodes.
I like Venus' attack. That's just their attack animation.
It's just their attacks. You just threw them in there.
I don't know why. I even watched it after the fact, and I was like, "Oh, these frames are different."
Just
and
a spoiler for the ending of the entire season.
It just didn't occur to me. I
right?
Don't know why? I don't know why. It's not like I haven't seen it before.
It's because it was the first one you saw, so you're just so used to it.
It's just that's what the opening theme is.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting. The very last shot of both of the openings is almost the same shot. It's all like blue background with a moon and then Sailor Moon posing. But in the Japanese version, it's just Sailor Moon with Luna. And in the Deke version, it's the whole inner team. So you can see there's the whole inner team there. And then the logo. The Japanese version also doesn't have the logo. I think it has credits to the production studio. But I do think it's interesting. They definitely had more of a battle focus and more of a team focus in how they specifically went out of their way to cut together a completely different intro when they didn't have to try to market this show in every episode in that very different way.
And that's from Sailor Moon Video on YouTube.
Thank you, Sailor Moon Video.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that was my commentary on. I was like, I have so many thoughts on this opening.
Honestly, I know we have differing opinions. I like the Deke one a lot.
I love it.
more.
I love the Deke opening.
I like the music of the Deke one.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, so the fact that the intros is not the same is probably also because of that rights issue. And having the opening theme and the animation be previews of what's in the show was pretty common for cartoons at the time.
Absolutely.
It was like the thing to the way the opening theme was for a lot of cartoons at the time. And so that would have been like that's the idea of the opening sequence being its own piece of animation to a really cool song that has nothing to do with the show other than to show you the characters being neat. That's not the way American cartoons worked. And so I see the logic, both because of the rights issue, but also with cutting in those things to not have this dreamscape of the actual animation. Rip fish blimp, sorry. But it's so bizarre compared to what we would be used to. And I get the logic behind that.
Yeah, I think that my feeling on localization is that it's very much there's an art to it. And it's not just a matter of translating something, it's a matter of translating something so that the right essence will translate to a different audience in a different country with entirely different expectations from their media. And for example, a quick example is that in every episode of Sailor Moon, at the mid episode break, you have the eye catch. You eye catch out, you eye catch in. And that's not, although I feel like there were in like the 80s, we had some shows that had eye catches like after this episode, we'll be right back.
That was from the network, though.
That was from the network. That was not specific to the show. That wasn't something that would be expected in a show airing in the United States or probably Canada either. And so I don't mind the decision to cut the eye catch because it would be less of something that an American audience would be used to seeing. I don't think it subtracts from yes, anytime you're not getting the full media, you're losing something in a sense. But in terms of I don't think that detracts anything from the show to necessarily cut something like that or to present a different opening that's going to draw in the audience in a way that communicates better with the expectations of that audience.
See synonyms under Rock the Dragon.
Yeah. Listen, they knew the 90s audience well. Because both those intros are bangers.
100%. 100%.
Are we in a place to start talking about what's in each episode?
I believe we are.
Yeah. All right. Let's launch into episode 1. Who wants to give a quick summary, as much as we do anything quickly around here, of what's going on in episode 1? Which the dub English title of episode 1 is A Moon Star is Born. The Japanese title of episode 1 is the Crybaby Usagi's Beautiful Transformation.
Like A Moon Star is Born.
I think both of those are good, honestly. They work in different ways.
First insult to you, though, I guess she is a crybaby.
I think that's a little unfair to her, but she is a little bit of a coward, but not that much.
I think I want to make a distinction between coward and crybaby because I think that one of the things that as I've become an older adult who has to like actively practice self-care and lives in the harsh world of capitalism, I've come to really appreciate that Usagi gets things done while also crying about it. Like nowadays, I'm like, you know what? Usagi's kind of my girl. You know what? She is a crybaby and she saves the world and she gets to be in her feelings the whole time. You know what? Good for her.
Good for her. Yeah. To be like, crybaby's an insult. But is it though?
Is it? Is it?
Yeah. I think the narration wants the audience to think of that negatively, but I don't really think it's a negative trait. I think she has worse traits, and being doing it scared isn't one of them.
Exactly. Yeah, compared to the weapons grade fail girl we have today, she has it together 100%. Does have it pretty well together.
No, but I think we need to talk about the dubbing because the dubbing on this was chef's kiss, and I found a tiny clip we could show.
While you were pulling up the link to the clip, I'm just going to share the fun fact with the audience that the woman who is the voice of Usagi, or Serena as she's called in Geek Dub, is also the voice of Toast from the Netflix's Bee and Puppy Cat show, which I spent the entire time being like, why is that voice so fucking familiar? Only discovered that's because she's Serena, and that's why it's so familiar. And it's almost exactly the same voice.
I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, smart, Molly. You can make the perfect guy. Handsome, smooth, totally cool. I'm sorry. And how are you?
What was that you were saying about someone totally cool? Well, we can be sure it isn't you. Shouldn't you be going home and doing your homework, meatball head?
Don't call me that. I just figured out who's gonna be the inspiration for my first love letter. Yeah, well, how's this for inspiration? You're a creep, damn you! You don't know a thing about being cool!
The Geek Dub's dubbing has a bunch of interesting choices. I think a lot of the voices are fitting. I don't dislike Usagi's voice.
I like it a lot, actually.
I think there's some winners. We talked about if you go watch our reaction episode on Patreon, we talk a little bit about, we really like Ikuko's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we think her voice is great. We don't know what's going on with Molly's accent. The common fan joke is that it's like a Boston accent, but it's like a Boston, New York, Philadelphia Southern accent.
It's strict all around. It's very important to note. Her mom does not have the accent.
No, none of her other family members have an accent. She's all East Coast on her father's side. And it's every accent you could possibly have from the Eastern Seaboard. Boy, that was a choice. And she's the only kid with an accent, and she doesn't really have like a Kansai or whatever accent in Japanese. She's just
right.
So sometimes characters who have a Southern Japanese accent get a Southern accent in English because it's
right.
The vibe translates.
It's meant to translate the vibe of being from a different locale with some of the same vibes.
But she doesn't even have that. She doesn't have an accent in Japanese. So the fact that she's just, Serena, you want to go to the arcade?
I love her.
I get my mom to drive us.
I love her so much. Like,
my mom owns a jewelry store.
I'm a fan of coffee.
So,
you haven't seen my cousin Vinny? My relative Marissa Tomei was in it.
Okay, and looking up voice actors, there's 2 Serenas. There is Tracy Moore, who was Serena for episode 1 through 11, 15, and 21. And Terry Hawks, and forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, who was in episodes 12 through 14, 16 through 20, and 22 through 40.
And I don't remember which one of them is Toast, but one of them is Toast.
That's so interesting that there was, and here I'll share my screen. So this was the voice actor that we were listening to for the first few episodes. And this is from Anime Voiceover Wiki.
Okay.
Come on. And then the other one is Terry.
And I love Terry Hawk's voice for Serena. I think it is memorable and so specific. And I love that. We'll get to these episodes eventually. I love that she tries to change the way that she speaks when Usagi is being Princess Serenity. She takes on this more formal, poised tone in how she says everything.
I thought she was British after I thought she was Serenity. I totally thought she was going for British.
I don't remember. We'll get there when we get there. But I think it's like a transatlantic meets British accent. Yeah. She's trying to sound posh and dignified.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a British accent, but it's very posh American, let's say.
Yeah.
Or posh Canadian, probably in this case.
Probably, yeah.
And then just have to point out the Queen.
Luna? Is that
Luna?
Yeah. Luna. Oh, yes. Everyone remember Luna's Mary Poppins ass voice?
I love Luna so much. In fact, actually, I have an autograph from her.
Oh,
that's so cool.
That's so cool.
Actually, from Jill.
Great.
And so I'm like, oh, wait, I actually really like her. And her Mary Poppins voice.
Yeah, she's got a lovely voice. This is not a knock the voice actor doing what they were told to do. This is on the choice of the director, caster, and script writers and localizers to be like, Luna, who is the young adult, really, in the manga, Luna, who's maybe more or less like a 20-something, instead is this grandmother?
Yeah, this elderly British woman.
An elderly British woman? That's so
Now,
such a choice.
I will say, this is a comparison specifically to the Viz dub. I will say that elderly British Luna is so much more distinct from all the other character voices than Viz Luna. Viz Luna, the voice acting is fine. She does a fantastic job. But unfortunately, Viz Luna and Viz Ray, and at least one of the other main in the Viz, their Sailor Guardians, have voices that are very close in tone and inflection. And many times I would struggle to differentiate who was talking if you weren't seeing a character with lip flaps happening. And that's when you have a show that has a bunch of people of the same age range and the same gender presentation, you will tend to have voices that sound more similar. And I will at least say that British Luna, you never mistook her for anybody else.
It's true. That's true. While we're talking about dubbing, I just want to point out that Mamoru sounds like a dweeb in every language, and that's great.
100%.
Yes. And that's end of the director. Good job. But I'd say Luna has some of my favorite voice acting, but that might also be nostalgia. Just because she was a whole lot meaner. Rewatching this, I was like,
I want to get into, when we talk about the content of the episodes a little bit more, the difference in some of the dialogue choices and where the English is sometimes real mean when it wasn't in Japanese.
There are also some times when the Japanese is real mean.
Yeah, in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are 4 episodes that are cut from the first episode. And I said, let's summarize it, and then we wound up talking about dubbing. So the gist of the first episode is the first chapter of the manga, and it's very manga accurate. Usagi, we meet her. She's a fail girl. She's not good at math. She's got ADHD and is late to school and forgets all her things, and she really needs to be medicated. Kamada Kukumama, get on that. She meets a cat with a mysterious crescent mark on its forehead. Turns out to be her magical guardian, who's here to guide her on her hero quest. She rejects the call to adventure a couple times before she will get to her not knowing how to computer tape player. Don't worry.
Yep.
With a literal floppiness.
And then we follow a little bit of her normal life. Her best friend, Naru, who is named Molly in the Deke dub, and her loser kind of tag-along friend, who is named Umino, who is, of course, Melvin. She has 2 loser friends. Molly he'd give me the great Jersey, my mother owns a jewelry store voice there.
My mother owns a jewelry store. We should go there.
Yes, that's
a big sale.
That's the hook. So, spoilers: the jewelry store sale is actually a plot by the nefarious Dark Kingdom, who is led by Queen Beryl, and we see her.
I'm sorry, I think you mean the nefarious.
Negaverse. Sorry, it's the Negaverse. Yeah,
Negaverse.
Kingdom has been renamed to the Negaverse. Queen Metalia is not mentioned, who is also not mentioned in Japanese either. Is just referred to our great leader, which I think they could have kept our great leader in English and kept that idea if they wanted to, but they didn't. They called it the Negaforce.
The Negaforce. Yep.
Yeah. So they took the Dark Kingdom from being these sort of Agarthan, beneath the earth, chthonic threats that are from Earth. They are from here. The call is coming from inside the house, to be like extra dimensional invaders. And I'm fine with both takes, really.
Yeah, I don't think it fundamentally alters that much for the show.
So it turns out Luna is a magical guardian. She tells Usagi it's her destiny to be a hero. She gives her transformation, which they call it a locket in the Deke dub, but it is a brooch. I guess brooch is not that popular with 14-year-old girls. She is given the ability to transform. She transforms. Then she has her one-off power where she gets to hear people calling for help. She hears Naru calling for help. She goes to rescue her. She's a 14-year-old nerd and is not cut out for this. The monster is real fucking creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Real fucking creepy. And in fact, both the Deke dub and the original Japanese cut out some of the more horrifying parts that are in the manga, where not only has this monster kidnapped Naru's mom, but in the manga, Naru's mom is tied up and half dead in the basement. I'm not even kidding. Read the Sailor Moon manga. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, really, read the Sailor Moon manga.
But the manga is dark.
It's dark, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the show is happy and the show is high reality.
That, just to be clear, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. So, of course, Sailor Moon saves the day, and that is not, I don't want to be a hero. And at some point, she runs into Mamoru, and he's a weird dick to her.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's, and then of course we know that Usagi is not going to be able to not go on adventures anymore. She has a destiny as a Sailor Guardian, Senshi Scout in this case. And I don't actually think the term Sailor Scout is used in the first episode.
No, not yet.
Yeah. That'll come up
Oh
later.
my god.
Oh my god. You guys have to see this real quick.
Okay.
Do you guys know that the Negaverse had a voice actor?
I'm sure there was some scene where it was like, Beryl, give me energy. And I'm sure that someone had to do that line. So yeah, I'm sure there are a couple of scenes where the disembodied cloud of evil that is the Negaforce, Queen Metalia, had to deliver disembodied orders.
I wanted to point out they also changed tuxedo masks because this was our first tuxedo mask, Reno, and then they switched at episode 12 to the one I knew of, who is Toby Proctor.
Yeah, Toby Proctor. Yeah, so I think that's when they switched Serena's voice actor too. So it might be that they had an initial cast hired on to do the pilot, and they probably just recorded the first 11 or 12 episodes, and then didn't ultimately contract with those people, and so they hired on new. That's would be my guess. Someone knows the answer. I haven't researched it.
If you know the answer, write to the show.
Yeah, right in the comments.
Leave it in the YouTube comments. We would love interaction.
We would indeed. I gotta say that the Deke dub does this cool montage at the very beginning of this episode from cut up clips from later on in the season that explains what Sailor Moon is about. Yeah, it does the whole thousands of years ago, and then explains a completely accurate summary of the backstory of the plot.
Yes,
strong.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense. I thought that was in the original, and it sure fucking isn't.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
It's not?
No, it's not.
No, they jump right into the episode.
Yep, I suspect that this has something to do with the Japanese the Japanese show being made for the Japanese audience, which they presume would have been familiar with the manga.
1,000 years ago, our moon was home to a great civilization ruled by Queen Serenity. Everything was peaceful until the arrival of the evil Queen Beryl.
First the moon shall be mine, then the universe!
To conquer the moon, Queen Beryl unleashed the awesome power of the Negaforce. Although her world was destroyed, Queen Serenity's last hope was the power of the Empyrean Silver Crystal and the Crescent Moon Wand.
Only this crystalline wand can combat the power of the Negaforce. Never let our enemies get them, or the universe is doomed. But most of all, you must protect our dear Princess Serena. Understand?
Yes. Frozen in moonbeam crystals, the Queen sent the princess and the children of the moon to the future on Earth. Their memories lost to them all. The Queen's cat advises Luna and Artemis must find the princess so she will at last be safe. And so our story begins.
Yeah.
If this came out shortly after, there's a ton of filler, so it had to have come out shortly after the first couple issues dropped. Because it takes 8 episodes for Mercury to show up.
It does.
So
we're in the Deke dub 5.
5. Yeah. There's some of the things that were cut from the plot. Also, I had completely forgotten that Miss Haruna gets to keep her name. I referred to her as Miss Homeroom in my notes because I thought she had an English name.
It's funny because it's close.
Yeah. So Miss Homeroom makes Usagi stand in the hallway for being late.
Yeah.
And this scene where Usagi arrives at school, she's late, she is punished for being late, is completely absent from the dub. Which kind of cuts out one of my favorite Usagi moments, which is she gets punished, she's embarrassed, and she's not really torn up about being punished. She's mostly just, oh, how embarrassing, I have to be in the hole. Well, fuck this. And then she just eats her lunch.
She just starts eating her lunch. I love it. Like, it's important because, like, a small scene like that is important because that tells you about the character. Like, those actually have tremendous narrative value. You have an opportunity in a small scene to give a lot of punchy characterizing information. And that is a classic example of that. Of, I can't believe a pretty girl like me was sent out into the hallway. Oh. And then she just starts emotionally eating. And she's like, yeah, I didn't have breakfast. And then Miss Harn is like, Usagi, what are you? It's wonderful.
I like to sometimes think about Miss Haruna's 8th grade class and her coming home to her family. And it's just, man, that Tsukino kid is so fucking weird.
We're never going to guess What that weirdo did today.
She's such a sweet kid, but there's nothing going on up there.
Nope.
The other thing that I found interesting that was cut from the Geek dub is that in Japanese, the kids, Molly, Melvin, and Serena, I don't know why I said their English names referring to the Japanese, but whatever. They have a whole thing where they talk about Sailor V. And
Yes.
Sailor V existing, and they know about her.
Well, Usagi doesn't until that moment.
No,
She does
Usagi-
not watch the news. that girl.
Usagi never knows what the new hotness is. That
No.
girl is so offline.
Mhm.
Queen shit right there.
Yep.
But they spend a bunch of time talking about Sailor V and her heroism, and she's helping the police and she's solving all these crimes, which is accurate to Codename Sailor V, if you've ever read that. And also, I don't know why this particular bit was cut from the American dub, in part because, I guess it's still Canadian dub, isn't it? In part because we see Sailor V in the video game on posters, and then it's the secret identity of Sailor Venus, so I don't know why that was cut, but it's clearly pretty easy to set up. And also, Sailor V was all about helping the cops, and given that this was a 90s Americanized TV show, I'm shocked that they left that out.
You think they'd be like, oh, yeah, you know what superheroes should do? They should help your local cops out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very 90s cartoon attitude. And so I'm literally shocked that she doesn't go help the NYPD.
I could use a crossover of Law and Order SVU in the 4th season of Sailor Moon.
Law and Order Super S. One of the other things that I noticed that I'm pretty sure was cut, and frankly, I'd be shocked if it wasn't, was in the later part of the episode, all of the people all the women who just had their energy drained at the jewelry store are enslaved to be zombie servants, and they all start attacking Sailor Moon. And distinctly, a woman comes at her with a broken wine bottle and cuts her. And she's, oh my God, I'm bleeding. And I'm like, yeah, they cut that. They cut that from the Geek dub. They weren't like, yeah, then a woman smashes a wine bottle and swipes Usagi with it. Just a little sanitization of the violence.
Sometimes Geek made some good choices. I'm not gonna argue with that one.
Yeah, my other note for this was that the shortened episode titles are honestly kind of nice, and I don't really mind.
Yeah, I think there's a couple localizations. Another localization note I had from this episode that I think, again, was a smart localization is they have localized Moon Tiara action to be Moon Tiara magic. I think that's fine. I think that action, because in the original Japanese is literally the word action, which is fine, but for us, the word action wouldn't translate in the way that we wouldn't think of blah, blah, blah action as an attack name. And so I think changing that to Moon Tiara magic is a perfectly fine localization change that I don't think harms the way that it's meant to translate. I think
Also,
it works perfectly.
I have a note about that too, because I definitely think Moon Tiara magic has a much better cadence for speaking English.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want to go from a word that ends in A to a word that starts with A when you can go from Moon Tiara magic, which has a nice flow.
Yeah.
So some of the notes I have on this episode, for me, this was one of the episodes that I found to be the most artful in some of their choices. And these choices will carry through into other episodes. But I think there are a lot of creepy notes and things that are sometimes presented in creepy ways that don't need to be. When Luna first appears on Usagi's bed out of frickin' nowhere, it's like there's an ominous music to it, and she's drenched in shadow. It's strangely creepy for a few seconds. But I wanted to talk about the background paintings for the episodes. I think Sailor Moon is pretty iconic for its beautiful bisexual lighting background. Everything is awash in these blues and pinks and purples with little tiny pops of green and yellow. And there's actually, if you look at particularly this first episode, but I think it carries through to most of these episodes, there is a visual language in some of these colors. The daylight, the mundane parts of Usagi's life, even when they sometimes take place at nighttime, tend to be in a normal color palette. They are little reality colors and they're vivid. It's a full panorama of colors. Anything that has to do with Sailor Moon and supernatural occurrences tends to suddenly be in casts of blue as the predominant color, which makes sense. She is literally fighting evil by moonlight. But they do change the color palette even when they're indoors and evil things are happening. You'll notice it'll typically be in navy blue, cobalt, different tones of blues. And one scene that I actually love is the scene where Luna first awakens Usagi to her magical power, she appears in her room. It specifically occurs at twilight, and all of the backgrounds and the overwhelming color scheme of that scene is this strong pinkish purple, where you're literally getting the sense that in the visual language, this scene is a transition between Usagi's mundane life and her supernatural life. It's specifically at twilight, converting her from the daylight normalcy that she experiences to the vivid supernatural life that she's about to take on. I just really liked the care and thought that was put into the visual presentation, especially of this first episode.
Yeah, I agree. Does that put us in a good place to talk about episode 2?
Yeah, I think we can. I think the only other thing I wanted to note real fast, because this is only in the Japanese and it is hilarious if you watch for it. The scene in which Tuxedo Mask appears, he chucks his rose. Usagi is like crying, and Tuxedo Mask specifically says, "Crying won't solve anything, Sailor Moon." Sailor Moon immediately cries and creates a shockwave that disables all of the enemies around her. Crying will solve something. And I was like, what a hilariously comedic moment that is. It's underpresented in the Japanese. It's very like low-key presented, like blink and you'll miss it, but was hilarious. Just absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that puts us in a good place to move on to episode 2. And our discussion of the second episode, which is actually the third episode. But let's recap the Deke stuff, because that's what we watched. And then if we have some time, we could go over the episodes that were completely cut and we could do a recap of those.
Yes, perfect.
So the title of episode 2 is called Talk Radio in English, or the Japanese light novel ass title, The Mysterious Sleeping Sickness, Girls in Love. Let me try to remember. Yeah, I watched all 8 episodes to get caught up between the two of them, so I'm losing like the thread here. But in this episode, the Jadeite plot is that he himself is a radio host where he gives romantic advice to women who write in, and he sends them a pin, like a lapel, not a lapel pin, but like one of those big statement pins in the shape of a flower, and it sucks their energy out, of course, for doing so. And he has such a lovely, sexy voice that everyone goes crazy and writes letters. And then there's a little bit of a fun urban horror element to it, where he has and the monster in this case is his producer. Yeah, I really enjoy that the monster is not doing the dirty work this time around. And so they have hijacked the radio station for this night program, and it happens at midnight. So we get another "this is happening at night" type adventure. The show airs at midnight. It's all the rage because it's a little pirate radio-y, and then like the regular people who work at the radio station are like, there is no midnight radio. Why do you keep writing in? And then there's this fun little scene where like the studio, the station manager is throw these letters away and then hands them to the monster. And I do like it when the episodes get a little involved with the regular people.
Yes.
And one of the real regular people focused episodes got cut from.
Oh, I so want to talk about that. It genuinely, I think it's a really good episode.
I agree. I have thoughts on the stuff that got cut and what I liked and didn't like, but we'll save that for the end if we have time. So yeah, the Usagi solves this problem by using the disguise pen to disguise herself as someone who belongs here. Then she interrupts Jadeite's clever plan to prey on women and fights him and fights the monster, and then she wins the end. This doesn't really have a B plot with the regular kids being kids this time. It's a real focus. Miss Haruna is one of the victims.
And Molly's a victim again.
Yeah, and Molly is a victim again.
Honestly, we should keep a tally. How
many
I think that what you will see is that in all of the first several episodes up until they add Mercury, they are recurringly going to be Molly is a victim, Miss Haruna is a victim, Umino is Melvin is a victim. And I think that it is suitable to the fact that the impact around Usagi starts out small and then it gets larger and larger as the villain's ambitions get larger.
Yeah. That's a good read of it. Also, I want to point out that this is Jadeite's best plot.
No, by far.
I mean,
this is his best work.
This is a really strong one. I would tend to agree. This is his best work.
This is his best work. His next best work will be the airplane, and we're not there yet.
My only wish is that he had made like a K-pop boy band.
If only.
Imagine it would have been in the time of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. It would have been perfection.
I know.
Oh, it would have killed. It would have absolutely killed.
Yeah, he's not that smart. My favorite note from the Japanese, which is cut from the English, is that his pseudonym, what he is saying his name is on the radio, is J. Daito.
Yep. Here.
Daito.
Can you put it in the chat so I can put it on?
Yes. And honestly, they should have let him just be like, I'm J. Dite.
Yep.
In English, it would have been
J. Dite.
Yep. Yeah. Here's how I would spell it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, J. Daito, like that. Come on, man. Come on.
No, she's just like, these people are stupid. No effort is required.
No effort at all. Okay, so I also really got to hand it to the Teak Dub in this one for some of its scripting choices, because there are some good jokes in this episode. Miss Homeroom slides in after being drained, being the lucky reader that night, and she's exhausted, and she says to the class, just read chapter 1 through 5 of whatever book, and then passes out. It's such a good joke. She says something similar in Japanese, but it's not nearly as funny.
Yeah, I think in Japanese, she's just like, all right, I should take roll, or whatever. I'm going to take a nap. Like,
yeah. It's
yes,
funny.
I particularly enjoyed read chapters 1 through 237 in whatever
book. That hits like an improv line, which I think is part of what makes it less funny to me.
No, because it does. Because I distinctly remember as I got older thinking, wow, my teachers really probably didn't have their lives together.
No.
Because they were always like these superior, they were adults. They knew what they were doing. And then I watched this and I'm like, yeah, I would just assume he had a bad hangover.
Yes. Miss Hard and went on a bend.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with the player.
Yeah, I wanna point out some things that I put that up on the screen. That's so good.
So true.
So true. So I want to point out some things that I found really different in both of them, and I have some mixed feelings about them. In when Usagi uses the disguise pen first off in the manga, our girl, she's always make me a hot blank. Anything she turns into
like a gorgeous announcer or something.
Everything, always. And she doesn't always do it in both the Japanese and the English. They took that from her, and I'm mad. But in the Geek dub, she says, turn me into a sophisticated talent scout, which fits the bill. Mm-hmm. In Japanese, she says, turn me into a gorgeous newscaster.
Yep.
And I don't know why the script doctors for this episode thought American kids wouldn't understand the appeal of a hot newscaster. But Usagi, please, this is radio.
Yep.
You have to be hot for radio.
In the Japanese version, like after she says, turn me into a gorgeous newscaster, Luna goes, did you have to say gorgeous? And she goes, yes. Goes on with the day.
Yeah,
but then she comes on her heel
14.
like an icon.
Sorry, Michi, what did you say?
I was going to be like, sometimes I forget she's 14 and then she talks.
Yeah, we'll get to them being extremely 14 a little later on. I have some notes about that as well. Okay, so in the Geek dub, there's also this moment where Ikuko and Kenji are at the dinner table, and I don't think they're ever named in English. I think they're just fucking mom and dad.
Let me check. I have the list of voice actors.
Okay, yes. Check to see if they have names that aren't just Mr. and Mrs. Tsukino.
Molly's last name is Baker.
Tsukino. There's no way that Serena's last name was
There's
Tsukino
no way that Serena's last name is Tsukino, but I don't remember what it is in English.
I don't know if
Serena's father.
Okay, so he's just Mr. Serena's dad.
Okay. Serena's dad. Yeah, I know Darian was Darian Shields, but I don't know that Serena ever had a last name.
It should have been Mooney if they were smart.
Did they ever give Serena a last name?
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did.
So I also want to talk about the dubbing names. Maybe we'll save that for the end, because if they wanted to be really accurate, her name would be Bunny Mooney.
Yeah, it sure would.
It sure would be.
Which in some dubbings it is Bunny. Or I guess that'd be manga interpretation.
Yeah, the one of the translations of the manga way back when did in fact call her Bunny, which I didn't mind.
She is Bunny, and Chibiusa is
Mini Bunny. Yep.
Yep.
So there's this scene where Ikuko scolds Kenji for forgetting their anniversary. Mom and dad are having this argument. That's in the Geek dub, right? She was like, don't you remember what day it is or whatever? And for whatever reason, they decided to have them have this weird little marital spat. Yep. In Japanese, Kenji reads the news about people going into comas and is, God, I wish that was me. He makes a low-key suicidal joke, and she is, I don't say shit like that, honey, eat your toast.
No, Relia and I were talking earlier, because I'm editing currently the Utena episode that Eternal Mooncast just... And I was like, what warnings do we need? And then Relia started listing all very relevant warnings to this episode.
For this, because I just assumed you were asking, you were like, warnings are we going to need for tonight? And I was like, oh, we're going to need like animal abuse. We're going to need fat phobia. And then you were like, no, I was talking about the EM Utena episode. And I was like, oh, you need warnings for that.
So for these episodes, fat shaming, predatory behavior, sexism, stalking, anime cross-dressing, and animal abuse.
Yep. This episode, pretty chill. Other than, I guess, the kind of horror content warning of the idea of a pin that would drain all your energy out and you pass out. That's scary, but it's not particularly graphic or horrifying.
No.
This one was pretty tame. One of the other things that I found that was different, because we talked about it during our reaction show, was that in the Deke dub, Usagi tells off Jadeite. She's full of righteous anger, and she's, ladies, this man doesn't have your best interest at heart and all that.
It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. In Japanese, she yells into the microphone to take all the brooches off. She tells people to stop wearing them and to stop trying to get them, because that's the thing that's hurting them, and that this guy is hurting. And I think both of those are very interesting and valid takes on her character.
Yep.
The Japanese thing is more directly heroic in that she is doing a thing to save people. She is taking direct action to stop the plot from happening. In the English, she's still doing that, just more metaphorically.
Yeah, and I think there are other examples, one of which is pretty impressive example, but is in one of the cut episodes, in the fortune-telling episode, where Usagi she can be pretty quick on the ball and quick to act in specifically heroic ways. I really liked whichever version you have of it, I like her bold, like, stare down of Jedi where she just takes over his radio show and he's, whoa, what's going on? Like, hey, that's not true. Don't call them that. Like, it is genuinely, I'm like, you know what? That's amazing for her, especially this is either her second or third, depending on which version you're watching, time doing heroism. And she really is, in her way, taking to it like a fish to water, even when she, like, cries.
Yeah. Did you have any particular notes about this episode?
First appearance is, the villain has amazing lipstick. She's got like green or blue lipstick. It looks phenomenal. Those are my notes.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I guess we can move on to episode 3, which I don't particularly want to linger on too long, because this is the episode that has all the content warnings. This is
real bad. Yeah.
This episode is real bad. The title of this episode is Slim City versus How to Learn How to Be Skinny from Usagi, which is just an entire episode. This is just 30 unadulterated minutes of body shaming towards children.
100%.
And trying to force these poor young girls to develop disordered eating. So content warning. If you are rewatching this on your own, I'm going to just say go ahead and skip this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead and skip this one. There's nothing a whole lot to talk about. The evil plot. And let me summarize the evil plot, though.
Yeah.
Because I have a good punchline about it. The evil plot is that Jadeite understands that preying on young women and their bodily insecurities is a great way to get them to do whatever. And so he, once again, is preying on young women by doing a weight loss scheme where he skip both. Skip it in both.
Yes.
Player.
In fact, the original sub is even worse.
Yes, I was shocked to discover that the fat shaming in the Japanese was worse, but it is.
It's worse?
Yep. Yes.
It's
worse.
Aggressively worse.
Awful in the English.
It's worse.
Aggressively worse.
So he convinces girls to basically work themselves, exercise themselves to death, including literally an energy draining tube in the basement that he somehow successfully convinces everyone to get into, including Miss Homeroom. And it's very obviously nefarious and evil. Everyone falls for it, including Usagi this time. And it's just unpleasant. The funniest part is that he did very clearly take over the bodies of gym hunks by giving them weird tiaras. I don't know where he found all these men on Grindr, but
these himbos?
We've seen what he looks like.
Okay, but can we talk real quick about this?
One of my notes is just his fucking tracksuit.
Jadeite this is the first time we start to see Jedi dressing up menacing and gay. And he will continue to be menacing and gay for the rest of the season.
100%.
So I think I didn't get to finish watching the Japanese watch through because Julia got so upset I had to turn it off. And I was just like,
so valid.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? That's fine. I don't need to know. I don't need to know the differences. It's okay. So here's my reminder to everyone that if anyone tells you that you're inadequate because of your body, they are equivalent to Jadeite and you don't have to listen to them.
Yeah. All right, so let me look here. These are my notes that I've taken on this. My first note literally just says Jadeite's fucking tracksuit. The next note says his brainwashed himbo henchmen with their evil tiaras. The next note says his evil plant pods. Yeah, so the spa pods that he convinces everyone to climb into so he can steal their energy just look like giant pod people, evil pods of plantness that no one would ever get into. They look so menacing and they don't need to. He's clearly shown that he can be like, this is an enchanted evil tiara. These are evil earrings. And for some reason he was like, no, just stick them in the plant pot. It's going to be hilarious. I will note that we do have one tremendous green flag in this episode, and that is the character of Andrew or Motoki. In both the Geek dub and in the Japanese, he finds Usagi when she's passing out. He's, oh my god, no, Usagi, you don't need to lose weight. You're great as you are. I think in the Japanese, he's actually like girls a little bit curvy. And then Usagi has another fantasy about him. But just Motoki is just, he's the only person who's, no, you don't need to diet. You're just perfectly fine.
I think in the Japanese, he specifically says, you are still growing.
Yeah, he says that.
He says the most healthy thing you could possibly say. You're a young woman. Like, you're still growing. You need to eat. Like, don't starve yourself. That's not healthy. That's not healthy for you. I don't remember him commenting specifically on her appearance, but then again, I didn't.
Yeah, he doesn't comment on her. The only comment he makes is, if anything, you could stand to eat a little more.
Okay.
But he doesn't sexualize her in any way. And immediately after she interacts with Green Flag's Motoki, she then encounters hugely red flags Mamoru, who is just very fatphobic at her, as everyone else is. Let's see.
And it came out literally in the third episode. What a way to kick off the series.
I'm furious that the Geek dub kept that episode, but not the stupid evil pet episode.
I know. It's so appalling to me. I have to say, another thing that's interesting is that so one thing we haven't mentioned yet is that in the Geek dub, at the end of every episode, they have a little something called Sailor Moon Says. And at the end of every episode, Serena comes out and she talks about the moral of the episode or a moral that you can take away from the episode.
Sometimes the hardest thing in the world is believing in yourself. Especially when your grades are less than stellar. Or you're kind of clumsy. But you never know what the real you can do. Set your mind and heart on it, and anything is possible. Bye now.
And so at least in the Geek dub, at the end, remember that it's okay to want to be fit, but you shouldn't starve yourself. If you feel like you maybe need to lose weight, that's something you should talk about with a doctor. And I was like, that's still not a great message, but at least they tried.
For the 90s, they tried
to be like, please don't crash diet.
Yeah.
There was at least the smallest amount of effort. But yeah, I don't think we want to linger on this episode because we all hate it. This is a bad episode.
Throw it in the trash universally. We all said no, bad, get rid of it. So let's move on to episode 4, which is actually episode 7 of the Japanese, which is titled
"Do You Want to Be a Superstar?"
Oh, okay. I read my whole note as the entire Japanese title. The Japanese title is Usagi learns her lesson. Being a star is hard work. This is the episode in which Usagi and Gennaro are both intensely 14 years old.
Oh, hardcore 14.
Oh my god.
The kids are such middle schoolers in this episode. The plot of this episode is, once again, Jadeite is preying on young women, but he dispatches his monster to kidnap and replace this pop star. And then with the replaced pop star, they start this program that promises young women fame. It is very transparently I don't know if this was the intention of the original authors, but when I rewatched it recently, I was like, oh, this is like a criticism of anything that's peddling you fame is predatory. So the plot is this instant overnight success. If you join this program and you go to all our trainings, you'll become a star and then you'll be famous. You'll be famous overnight. And we're going to give you all this stuff. And it's actually just a plot to drain the energy out of people while they're performing.
Yep.
And then Sailor Moon saves the day. End of story. My notes for this include the horny animators have clocked in for this episode.
Yes, the coordinators like came out from the basement and we're like, we're ready.
There is bondage, there is encasement, there is suffocation, there is goo.
There's some weird spitting.
Yeah, there's like a
thing. That's
spitting
definitely
thing.
someone's thing.
The monster is barefoot. If you have a weird interest, it's in this episode. The horny animators have clocked in.
And they're going to be with us for a while.
On my other note says, Jadeite, you're looking very menacing and gay today.
Isn't he always? Isn't he always?
He's in a little suit. He is hosting he's like emceeing her show in a little suit with a little pair of gay spectacles.
And then the one who was canonically gay, right?
No.
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 No. No. Amazingly, he's not.
It's kind of hardcore. Think about that for a minute. Because it's like, oh, he does look gay.
Put him up on the screen. So I also can't remember in the English dub. Oh, there's this.
So what happened is Jedi was like, I need to blend in with the humans, and so he went to Target to the men's section.
He did. That is an outfit I would wear.
I swear he stole Tuxedo Mask's suit.
It's perhaps. Also, when he is spying on the girls who are into the pop star, he wears like a trench coat with those gay little glasses. So I was just like, what is it on? No.
He also definitely noticed that's a different pair of glasses that he wears in the fitness episode than he wears in the idol episode. He clearly does not need glasses.
No.
I have a headcanon.
Okay.
So one of the things that you'll notice in the way that they're animated is that Beryl has the whites of her eyes are yellow, but Jedi, the whites of his eyes are blue. They are always blue. It's not just the lighting. And my headcanon is that he keeps putting glasses to hide the fact that his eyes are like discolored.
I forgot about
never forget. That is a future adventure.
Yeah, Jadeite outfit commentary I think will remain a thing throughout 100%. This, but all the Shiteno just wear the weirdest, gayest shit when they're in their street clothes. All of them, all of them. So,
oh my god, we got sketches for these.
I can't remember. Does the Deke dub? So the thing that they are specifically selling to people is the Cinderella story, and that's literally what they call it. And I cannot remember if they call it that in the Deke dub.
I don't remember them calling them that.
Okay. Yeah, and I felt like that was a miss for them to not include that in the English, because it's not like an English audience does fucking understand what a Cinderella story is.
Yeah.
And it was there was some time between when we watched it and when I rewatched it. So I didn't remember if this sort of criticism of the idea that someone selling you a Cinderella story is lying was in the Deke dub, and I don't feel like it was. It was just the pop star. She's got a program.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think the Sailor Moon says was like, be realistic with, it's great to have dreams, but don't forget to live in the moment and try to be the best version of you possible. I don't think it was necessarily a direct indictment, as it should have been, of the desire to attain easy viral fame.
Yeah. One of my other notes was that I felt like this episode was still extremely relevant. I think of all those YouTubers who sell YouTube classes to teach you how to become the next biggest YouTuber, and of course they're all grifters.
Yep. I think the unfortunate thing about Jedi is that his thing that he is genuinely no irony good at is identifying trends that he can exploit. And he will directly say, it's really easy to manipulate people through diet culture. Like, it's really easy to manipulate people through the desire for quick fame. Like, it's really easy to manipulate people through like their belief in superstition. Like, we'll get to the cram school culture, which is very interesting, the discussion about that in the Japanese version. But he's genuinely good at identifying poisons in society that he can exploit. And as a result, I think a lot of them are like also painfully relevant to this day. I'm like, oh no, all of these plots would still be like dangerous.
Yeah, with this trend of high quality, well done live action anime adaptations, like starting with One Piece and the Yu Yu Hakusho, and then they're doing a Golden Kamuy one, which also the trailer for that looks fucking amazing. I would love to see a 2024 plus live action Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Treated with the same kind of, I don't want to say gravitas, but like attention to detail and seriousness that the One Piece show did.
Yeah.
Like the One Piece show is just, the live action, just a labor of love. And it's preserves being goofy while also looking high budget and well produced, and it does it tremendously well. And I would love to see a Sailor Moon take in a similar fashion.
Oh, it'd be so good. It would be so good. I would love that.
But would they go full throttle?
But the One Piece show sure does, so I would hope this one would do.
There. Also, by the way, I just had to show you guys this meme. Trying literally any other plan, setting J-Knight to a fixed stop.
That's it. That's the first solid bit of the first arc.
Thank you, Reddit.
So my other comments on this episode, I have a comment that just says Darien being a huge dick as usual.
Yep.
Yeah. He's I can't believe you're not trying to be a star with all your stupid friends.
Yeah, so there's a bit in the deep dub where he's real mean to her at the end, right? He's like, how about you do your comedy bit or whatever? And in the Japanese, he comes across a little bit more autistic than mean-spirited there, but he is still just a dick to her. Anyway, carry on.
My only other comment here is Melvin cross-dressing and experiencing gender euphoria.
Yes.
I think, especially back then, but still to this day, anime cross-dressing, a lot of tropes associated with it. It's very accepted as a thing that you can do for comedy. I wish it wasn't. But I will say that in this episode, Melvin dresses as a girl to do this performance with Naru. Oh my God, we have to talk about the performance, by the way. And at no point is he like, this is weird. At no point is anyone like, it's so funny that he's dressed up as a girl. He just is, oh wow, I look better in this outfit than I expected to. And then I'm so excited to do this skit. We're really good. I'm having a great time. Maybe I can be a star. How neat. I'm glad that you picked me, Naru. Like, it just, for some reason, everything's great.
It's
funny.
It is funnier that she puts him in like her mom's. It's such a motherly outfit, the matronly outfit she puts him in. It's like not his color. It's not very flattering on him.
No.
She's do this thing with me, and he's just fuck yeah, I'm being included, and it is funnier that he doesn't care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think his only reaction is, are you sure it's okay for me to wear this? I always wear black.
Yeah,
that's his
only reaction.
Melvin.
He was like, oh, this is a color. I don't wear a color.
I don't wear color. I wear black. So yeah, all right, let's talk real quick about the singing and dancing scene.
We stay on Melvin real quick. I just wanted to say, real quick, this is my love and appreciation to Roland Parliament for his portrayal of Melvin.
Genuinely, Melvin's voice acting, I think, is fantastic. I think
I agree.
The localization of Melvin's name is perfect because he is a Melvin.
He is a Melvin.
Sometimes you have to give a character the name Melvin, and they did.
That was him. His name's Melvin. Yep. That's for sure.
Mr. Parliament, if you ever want to be on the show, we would love to have you.
Yes, we would.
I know it's like a shot in the outer space, but just always have to give appreciation to our voice actors.
Nevertheless. Real quick, the initial performance that Usagi and Serena and Molly are going to do is they're going to do like a song and dance performance. And the song that they're practicing to is just the Fighting Evil by Moonlight opening song that they're singing. 2 notes. 1, they're not good at dancing. 2, they're not good at singing. And especially if you are a trained voice actor, it takes effort to sing badly. They do a great job. It is delightfully 14 years old. Later on in the show, Molly and Melvin are also singing badly the Fighting Evil by Moonlight theme. We did, of course, check in the Japanese version. Are they singing Moonlight Densetsu badly? Yes, they are singing Moonlight Densetsu badly. They were like, let us faithfully adapt this comedic moment because it's perfect as is, no notes. And that's what they did. It's flawless in both versions.
Yeah. Yep, that was one of my other notes. That they're doing the same extremely 14 years old thing.
It's basically the same as TikTok dancing saying.
Yeah.
I told you, the show is so relevant, even to this day.
Yeah. We also had a question about the monster's goo and whether or not what the fuck the monster is made out of would be clearer in the Japanese. I just want to tell you that it isn't. At least in English, I'm frozen when it like spits on her. And then it like covers her head and she's, oh no, I can't move. In Japanese, she says, I can't breathe. It's worse. It's unidentified alien goop and it's suffocating her. Thanks, horny animators, for that one.
Isn't she like that for days?
No, throws his rose and saves her.
No, she's fine immediately. No, the person who's like that for days, the original idol performer who got kidnapped in the shower and wrapped lasciviously in this slime goo ice that was spat out from the villain's
mouth,
also horny way. It's never noted that she is just laying wrapped up in her bathtub for
days.
days.
But we see her sit back up okay at the end. So
Yeah, they're like, we just want she lived.
She lived.
She's
She's
fine,
not dead.
apparently.
She didn't die of starvation. She's
Mhm.
fine. She definitely also didn't pee in there or anything.
Yeah, no, don't worry about that. Don't even worry about that at all.
So yeah, that was my last note. Oh, other than we had questions about what she's like on the ribbon dance poster where Usagi's, oh, this is the name of the pop star. And in the Japanese, the poster specifically for an energy drink. And I don't think that's what it was in
Yeah, I don't remember if it was that in English or not.
Yeah, I think it's like maybe a movie poster or something like that. It's something that's not related, but it's a poster for an energy drink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the last point. So that brings us up to episode 5.
All right. So we're so this is where it gets weird because it's not, because this would still in the Japanese technically be the episodes of Just Usagi, but since we're doing deep dub, it's now Welcome Sailor Mercury.
Yep. Episode 5 in English is called Computer School Blues. Monica, do you have the dramatic Japanese name for us?
The dramatic Japanese title, and this is the most Japanese episode title of the set. This one is The Girl Genius a Demon? ? Exclamation point, which are in fact in the title. The Brainwashing Cram School of Horror.
That's
2 titles.
So good.
3 titles.
So good. Yep.
So my first note that I have, I summarize the episode. So in this episode, which is also very similar to the chapter from the manga, we're back to being mostly manga accurate for this episode.
Yeah.
Ami is introduced. So of course this starts with the new student at the school. She's super smart. She's a super genius, and everyone doesn't like her because she, oh yeah, true. Put that put that tape player quote. Yeah. They don't come in non-horror forms. Yeah, I feel like this is maybe also a cultural critique that doesn't quite land for us because we don't really have the idea of a cram
It's much
school.
harsher and hilarious in the Japanese, which I will talk about when we get to that.
Oh, sure. And the Deke plot is that this new girl, Amy, has showed up. She's weird. No one likes her. She's going to this after-school computer school. Serena decides that she's going to make friends with the girl genius. She does not participate in being mean, I will note. She decides she's going to befriend the girl genius because maybe her smart fumes will rub off and she'll get good grades.
Yep.
Or more reasonably, perhaps the smart girl will help her study. And then she becomes friends with her. There's some hijinks involving the floppy disk and it getting lost, which Serena winds up in possession of. They try to return it to her. Oh no, there's a monster. Oh, it's a Jadeite plot. Oh, they're draining everyone's energy. Oh, surprise! Amy is Sailor Mercury. They fight the monster now with the power of teamwork, and they win, and Sailor Mercury is now on the team. This is episode 8 in Japanese. I gotta hand it to the Deke Dub for cutting that down to 5, but they cut episodes that I would not have cut.
They preserved the fitness episode and they cut particularly the tape episode, which I think is genuinely a really cool episode. The other two are like, there were reasons that they cut them, but there are some things that are interesting about them as well. But so my notes about this episode is that, especially in the Japanese version, this episode is a harsh indictment of Japanese cram school culture. And if you look at the fact that Jadeite's plots are specifically exposing these aspects of culture that often get pushed to extremes and are very harmful to people. And the Jadeite's like, how can I use that to do a harm that I can actually be like super evil from? People will just think they're regular feigning from working out or regular feigning from studying, but actually they're feigning from my evil plot. And to include Japanese cram school culture in that is this very specific indictment. Now, in the Japanese, there's an initial opening scene where Beryl and Jadeite are discussing his latest plot, because sometimes he just like previews his plots to her before he goes out and does them, which is interesting. Tell me more. So in this one, Jadeite is explaining what the plot's going to be, and Beryl has a line that she says that she's heard that parents are even harder on their kids than her monsters would be, which is amazing. And then Jadeite says something like, oh yes, it's everything to them, and parents will do anything to make sure that their kid gets into a good high school so that they can get into a good university and blah, blah, blah. And then Beryl goes, So what do they do after university? And Jedites, I have no idea. Obviously, they don't translate that for the American audience. It wouldn't land because we don't have cram school we don't have high school entrance exams.
My favorite part of that exchange is that Jadeite goes, I don't know. And Beryl goes, oh, okay.
They're both
Go ahead.
I don't know. Just
Yeah,
weird human culture things.
She's okay. Kill him then. They don't resolve past just nothing ending. It's very funny.
No, they're just like mildly fascinated with this weirdly abusive, exploitative. They're like, this seems weirdly fucked up. Why are the humans doing this? And then I don't know. And she's like, all right, we can still use it for energy. Go for it. It's just very harsh. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and I think this may tie into what you're about to say too. A lot of the dialogue in English is completely different. Completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have anything you wanted to point out either to that effect or
some of it obviously is localization, again, because this is a hard episode culturally to translate into something that an American audience or Canadian audience would be familiar with. But a lot of it is also just a lot of people being like weirdly really mean to Amy that weren't mean to her in the original. Like they're blatantly like, oh yeah, she's probably a snob. Like she transferred because no one likes her and blah,
yeah,
blah, blah. And then Mel rats out all of that information to her directly. She's like, oh yeah, this is my friend Serena, who I told you. She said you were probably a big old bitch and blah, blah, blah. And Serena's, what the F, Melvin?
No, Melvin literally tells every dirty secret.
Absolute narc. Narc.
Yeah, there's no loyalty. No loyalty whatsoever.
So I definitely understand why they changed some of the dialogue. Like the concept of a cram school just doesn't exist in the US. It's one of the things we don't do to children. And that one I get. Reframing that as an afternoon extracurricular computer class for this real smart kid who's like doing something above and beyond, that actually makes sense as a localization. And even if there were a modern dub where they reframed it like that, I wouldn't feel weird about it because that's what localization does. You reframe things to fit the context the audience understands, or you throw in a note that says this is what this means, right?
Yeah, Keikaku means plan. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. A little less on the nose than that, but yes, exactly. It is called the Crystal Seminar in Japanese, which is also accurate to the manga. And they leave out the whole thing that Ami is on a scholarship to go. They're paying her to attend this seminar, this cram school, this extracurricular.
They're advertising based off of her.
Correct. Yeah. And I don't that aspect of it is absent from the English. And I think part of that is also because I don't know that translates, but I feel like it was an extracurricular school that she's being paid to go to is a thing that I feel would have landed.
Sure.
To some
To
degree.
be fair, I can remember who my school's valedictorian was.
Yeah. I don't, but yeah.
They could have easily just said she's got a scholarship to this program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or it counts as college credit.
Yep. Any of those things.
But there were a couple ways that could have landed. I just noticed that was missing. And the other thing is that just what you just said, the geek dub makes the kids so mean. For no reason. They're vicious. Other than like accurately reflecting what 8th graders are like.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, but I've been to American high school or American junior high. No, that's accurate.
Yeah, it's accurate. They're just not that nasty in the Japanese original dialogue. They're like, oh, she's aloof and she's rich. They're like she's this weird rich kid who's super smart. Because one of the things that they say, like the kid friend, who I don't remember her name, that's just who she is. She's the background character. She's just, I don't like her. And that's it. She doesn't say why. She just doesn't really like her. And then they're like, the kids in Japanese, her vibes are off. She's weird. I don't like her. And calling her like weird or standoffish is like the nastiest thing they say about her. And Usagi is notably quiet through that in Japanese. She does not participate in talking bad behind Ami's back. So the part where Umino is like, or Melvin rather, is she said, you smell like socks. It doesn't land.
Melvin voice is so good.
Thank you. That's absent because Usagi is nice to her when no one else is, which is a thing that I think is missing from the geek dub and is really important to the context that Usagi is not just collecting friends, she is collecting other people who are outcast. She herself is a fail girl who no one really likes. They do like her, but she's not popular. She has 2 friends. She's got weird interests. She doesn't know what any of the hot hip shit is. She's not the most popular girl in school. She's constantly failing and she gets sent out in the hall where she eats her lunch. She's such a little weirdo. And then she collects other people who are also ostracized, and that is distinctly missing from this episode.
I think one of my all-time Sailor Moon favorites is the R movie, and iconically, you get the montage cut in the middle of Moon Revenge, one of the best Sailor Moon songs, where Usagi is about to sacrifice herself to use Silver Crystal to prevent them all from burning up in re-entry. And the Senshi are each like, we can't let her do this. Like, we have to help her. Let's pull together. And as they're like summoning up the energy to support her, they each have a flashback of essentially the time when Usagi saw them in a way that no one else did. And you see the contrast of everyone always judges Ami. They're like, oh, she must be such a snob. She's smarter than us, blah, blah, blah. And Usagi's just at the beach with her. Hey, you've studied enough. Let's just have fun and fool around. And Ami's, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Venus, everyone's, oh, she's an idol. She's so apart from everyone. She has no time for anybody or anything. And Usagi's, wow, it's Sailor V. And she's in person. Ray's is, wow, Ray, you're such a hard worker. Everyone thought she was this like superstitious weirdo. Jupiter, she shows up. She's the new girl to school. Everyone's, she's so scary. Stay away from her. She's a thug. And Usagi's just, your lunch looks so good. What is it? Like, you're not scared of me. And Usagi's, no, should I?
She's no, you're so hot.
Yeah. Well, this is
Makoto.
so important to everything that Usagi is, especially in the anime, that she is a person who does not prejudge people, but takes them for the good that they can see, that she can see in them. And so I think it's such a missed opportunity to have her be mean and gossipy about Ami when that's just not Usagi at all. Especially in this episode where Luna keeps being like, Usagi, she might be a villain. And Usagi's like,
I don't think so.
Talking about, Luna, go away. I'm trying to befriend this girl.
The other thing that's missing from the manga that's not in either version is that Usagi just is gay for all the other Inner Senshi immediately. Like, whenever a new girl shows up in Usagi's orbit, she's so pretty. The first thing she thinks about all of her new girlfriends is it's that she's just, a girlfriend is in girl space friends. They're gorgeous. I'm surrounded by beautiful people. I love that about her. I love that about her. It's one of my favorite things about her character.
Hard agree.
They leave that out a little bit from both versions of the anime, and I feel like she's a little less for that. That she isn't just like, all my friends are so pretty, and they're all so smart, and they're all so talented, and I just love all these people who are so much cooler than me. It's so important.
Agree. Fully agree.
The other thing that the deep dub does that was a change that I was like, why did you change this? Is that Luna discovers the command center in English.
Yeah.
She goes in and she's, what, this game, it might be useful to me. And instead, she's going there for guidance in Japanese. And they have this fun little like cat password. The password is... I don't remember if the cat password is in the deep dub or not.
It's the rabbit on the moon makes rice cakes.
No, she says sardines and something, doesn't she? If I remember.
I don't remember. I think there is a password, but
yeah, there's a password.
Yeah,
and she's there specifically for advice because Usagi is a fail girl.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sailor Moon is kind of letting me down here.
Yeah, and the Japanese voice is very less obviously Artemis.
Yeah.
The deep dub also cuts the very famous "I'll have you know I don't know how to use a computer" line.
Yes,
and so
iconic lines.
Also, Luna can code, which is something that's cut out of the English dub as well.
Yeah, because she had a MySpace, clearly. And if you're too
automatic
old for that joke, we're from the 1900s. So
the other thing that I noticed that they cut and completely changed the dialogue around, in lieu of saying that, in lieu of having Usagi being mean to Amy, which she's not, is that they're in different classes. Usagi's in class 1 and Ami is in class 5.
Yes.
And they don't mention in the deep dub that they're in different classes, which I feel like that wouldn't have been lost on an American audience. We had lots of people had different homerooms or different teams. Like I was on a team of students in my middle school. We were team R and team S.
Yeah, we had different homerooms.
Yeah. And like whenever the school like had a school-wide competition, you were competing for your team, your bank of students or whatever. And I feel like that would have been a pretty easy thing for an American audience to comprehend. And it was one of the things where I was like, why did you Why did you rearrange the dialogue around that? Did you think people wouldn't understand being in two different classes or teams or
you couldn't
homerooms?
just say, oh yeah, she's in Mrs. Smith's class?
Just wanted to highlight
agreed.
the voice actress for Mercury was Karen Bernstein.
Thank you,
Oh
Karen.
yeah, the voice actress for Mercury, I feel like they gave her some not super great voice direction. They were like, we need you to be as stiff as possible.
Just no
and
emotion
she
in your
delivered on
voice.
that. She delivered on that, but it's clear that she's certainly capable of not doing things in a stiff way. It seems like it was a voice direction.
Yeah,
But it's very
definitely.
distinctive of Ami in every episode.
Go bleach your roots, creep will forever be iconic.
Or sorry, Amy in every episode.
Yeah. All right. So if you were tuned into the show, we just went over the first 5 episodes of the Geek Dub, which technically cover up to the first 8 episodes of the Japanese. And because Relia and I are really committed to the bit, both of us watched all 8 episodes. So we're going to recap the, 3 cut episodes that the Geek Dub didn't cover and why we think that happened. And then we're going to wrap up for the night.
First of all, interestingly, I believe that in total, the Geek Dub cuts 7 episodes from the anime. Of those 7 episodes, 3 of them are within these first 5. So I don't know how that worked out that way, but it may be because these are more, because Jedi's plots are focused on things that may be more problematic, they are more likely to get cut. What that tells us is Jedi is problematic. All right. The first episode that was cut was, I don't have the episode titles because I didn't write them down. We will call this the Fortune Teller episode.
I may have written it down. No, I didn't.
Okay. This is the Fortune Teller episode, and the plot for this episode is that this is a rare episode in which Jedi has for once decided to target boys instead of girls. And he is also, his plot is up this high-end fortune-telling studio where he's got a monster who's going to do tarot readings for people. And then she attaches each of them to the Devil Tarot card and then sends them out to take what they want from the world and abuse everyone around them and just get whatever they want, fulfill their desires, and etc. I think you can already smell where this episode is going and the ways in which this episode is extremely problematic. The mundane framing for this episode is that Melvin continues to be obsessed with Serena, and this is Japanese episodes. Umino continues to be obsessed with Usagi, and he goes to this fortune teller to help him figure out a way to get Usagi to fall in love with him. And so he comes back wearing this very funky, fresh, very 90s, 80s, 90s suit, trying to look all cool and edgy and trying to be this super cool guy, but he's actually just a total douchebag. Meanwhile, Usagi has heard about these fortune tellers. She goes in, she finds this other dude who's just an actual fortune teller who's got his little shop across the street who just politely tells her fortune that, like, someone who likes her is in her vicinity, and she's like, I need to know more about this person who's got a crush on me, and blah. And she, of course, immediately has another one of her, like, fantasy scenes in which she's fantasizing about Motoki, which is a running theme. She has a crush on him. I can't blame her. He has so many green flags. I gotta find that fortune teller again. And then because the new Jedi shop had opened across the street, I guess the fortune teller actual guy went out of business. And then she's like investigating the new fortune tellers. You get a little shot in the middle of Kenji Papa just being a good husband. He like goes out and buys groceries, and she's like, Dad, didn't you just get home from work? And he's, yeah, but your mom works real hard all day to take care of you guys, and the least I can do is pick up some food to bring home for her. What are you doing loitering after school? Why didn't you just go home? It was a very cute little scene. This is a cool episode as far as Usagi's heroism because Usagi immediately pegs the source of the evil. There's something going on with Melvin, and Usagi is immediately that it must be because of that fortune teller place, because he went to that fortune teller place, and I bet it's a Negaverse plot. And I was like, she's right. She figured it out. That place just opened and it's real suspicious. I'm like, good for you, girl. There is an animated shot where when Tuxedo Mask does his appearance, he gives a smile and it has an actual ping visual effect on his smile. That's not plot related, but it does happen. And then they expose the problem, they fight the bad guy, everyone's saved, the boys go back to normal. And then Amino apologizes to Usagi at the end. He's very upset when he hears about everything that he did. And Usagi very graciously puts him off. She's like, oh, no big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then he's, yeah, you're right. It probably is no big deal after all. Like, you're this happy and you probably just flunked a test. And he runs away and she's, he has no idea what I go through. And then she like trips on the street. I genuinely enjoy that scene because it shows you how Usagi does genuinely live her life in this very unsung way. People around her do constantly treat her as though she is just a failed girl. She is just a loser. And she is out here being so gracious to Melvin, who has very much trigger warning for all of the sexual assault that happens in this episode. He has very much been like attempting to assault her and assaulting other people in the episode. And she just graciously is, you know what? I know it wasn't you. That's no big deal, Melvin. Don't worry about it. She doesn't want him to stress about it. It's a very kind moment for Usagi, and I really enjoyed it, but it is in the context of this very messed up episode. Umino flips Miss Haruna's skirt and shows her underwear on screen. Other boys also low-key sexually harass Miss Haruna. Melvin tries to forcibly kiss Usagi, who is very distressed about this, and is, I don't like the way you are now, Melvin. Please stop this. It is a very, I 100% understand why they cut this episode. You cannot preserve this episode if you cut out all of the sexual harassment that occurs.
Yeah, I think this is an episode that you can safely skip.
Yep.
Nothing really of value happens in this episode. I rewatched it and I was like, oh, I remember the beginning being really boring. And this is one of the more boring episodes. The highlight of the episode is Melvin being a delinquent. Because this does not have an English equivalent. This finds
Melvin in my heart.
But he has the soul of a Melvin. So like, that's just his name. Sorry. I don't know if Umino is an equally dorky Japanese name. I hope it is. There's also like the fortune telling thing is very culturally Japanese. You could not. Obviously, America has plenty, and I don't know about Canada. I don't know anyone Canadian in the audience. My Canadian friends here tonight? I don't think so. There's lots of palm readers and tarot readers and psychics and mediums and people who are. We have the idea of a fortune teller who would be preying on people, right? That's not new to us. That's not culture. Yeah, we have many people. Miss Cleo would have definitely been the touchstone for the 90s, though.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. But like the fortune teller Usagi goes to talk to on the street and the Yoma, the monster fortune teller, are both doing very culturally Japanese fortune telling. And there's no spinning that to be the tarot or to be like psychic or whatever. Because I think one of them's doing the I Ching, I think. I don't remember.
I think so. I don't remember some of the specifics of it. I just, because I was trying to do several things at once and make a lot of notes at once.
Yeah.
But
yeah, my notes for this are that like the high point is that Umino is the target here and not Naru. And that my note was that I think in addition to all of the sexual harassment, and he's a minor, there's that too. All the sexual harassment towards poor Miss Homeroom, and in addition to being too provocative, it's too culturally Japanese for the Deke redub, which was very aggressively aimed at trying to not make Sailor Moon feel Japanese at all.
Yeah.
And I think this is maybe a safe place to talk about the racism of the Deke dub. in like, lots of other shows did this too, which doesn't make it okay. It just makes it a common practice where they renamed all the characters as if Usagi is a word that's hard for American people to pronounce. It's really not. Japanese is pretty straightforward for the English speaker to grasp as far as pronunciation and stuff goes. There are other languages that have names that are much harder for native English speakers to get right. Japanese ain't one of them. It's really not. And so on one hand, I don't care for the fact that they thought that American audience is too stupid to understand that people in Japan have Japanese names and to try to frame it as it being an American thing. That good awkward zombie comic where the punchline is "Eat your hamburgers, Apollo." Yeah, about Phoenix Wright. Yeah, he's very clearly eating sushi. If anyone is unfamiliar with this comic, about the same phenomenon happening in the Phoenix Wright series in a very similarly paternalistic and racist way.
Yep.
But I do like some of the attention to detail in the names, like Usagi being part of the Serenity like the themes of the Greek myth of Serenity and Endymion. There's that myth too, but there's also the Japanese myth of the rabbit on the moon, which is literally her name, Usagi Tsukino. And then they named her Serena, which is related to the mythology part of it. And then they kept Mamoru being named, was it Darian Shields? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is related to his name, which does mean faithful protector. Yeah, they kept that scene, but then they just, for them, and then Makoto is named Lita.
Yeah, Amy is Amy because they were like, all right, that's easy. It was basically Ami.
That was a quick switch.
Yeah.
Ray.
Ray.
We just spell it differently. Minako, Mina.
Mina. Okay, sure.
But then Makoto, Lita.
Lita, which Lita is one of the people who Zeus has a relationship with.
Yeah, not spelled the same.
Same way,
But yeah.
Yeah, so I guess there's a connection there, but yeah, not a big fan of the censorship, where the censorship is removing the cultural identity from the original work.
Yeah.
On that positive note, let's talk about the pet shop episode.
My God, the pet shop episode.
This pet shop episode.
So what happens?
Recap it before I talk about it.
All right. The pet shop episode opens. Luna's like real tired one day, and she goes and sleeps in Shingo, that's Usagi's brother's bedroom. And he has a fear of cats, so he's real freaked out. And Usagi's, but Luna's gonna live here now, so you should get over it. And he's, I'm not gonna get over it. Luna's not gonna live here now. And the parents are like, you kids should decide, because they're very progressive about their children. And so Usagi and Luna are like, we got to figure out a way to make Shingo be more accepting of you. And meanwhile, Shingo is walking down the street, and he and one of his little school friends see this hip new, it's the It Thing pet store. It's called Perfume, a typical pet store name. And they sell these animals that are called Chanellas, because I think someone was like, Takeuchi-san's gonna love this. She loves Chanel. Let's do a riff on Chanel perfume. So these are these like little bunny hamster looking cutesy creatures that are evil and that will cause you to be evil and be obsessed with them. And they apparently smell amazing. And they give him away, the woman, and he's, I don't think I can afford that. And she's, you can just pay whatever. They just give them away to everybody. And they all become obsessed with their Chanellas. All they want to do is look at their Chanellas all the time and just like obsess over them. And the Chanellas, of course, stealing their energy. Usagi's, Luna, go be friendly to Shingo. Maybe he'll like you. And Shingo kicks her across the room. He's, I only want to be with my Chanella. And then Usagi's, this ain't right. She slaps Shingo across the face. They investigates the situation. They obviously figure out very quickly that the Chanellas are evil, because they snake them into school, they hide them in their desk, and then one girl, like 5 minutes into lesson, is like, I can't take it anymore, I need to see my Chanella. And they're all like, yes, I need to see my Chanella. They fight the enemy, they destroy the Chanellas, and Shingo is like, wait, Sailor V, you're so cool, I can't believe you're here. And she's like, I'm actually Sailor Moon, but you know what, you can do something for me. And he's like, how do you know who I am? And she's, I know everything. And he's, that's cool. What can I do for you, Sailor Moon? I'll do anything. She's like, that cat Luna that lives with you, I think she's going to be lucky for you. So you need to treat her right. And blah, like, I'll do it for you, Sailor Moon. And then he proceeds to spoil Luna endlessly. But that's the episode. I had almost no comments on this episode. It was pretty boring. I'm sure that they cut it because you have to cut a lot of animal abuse and sibling abuse to make it work. But this was the first instance of one of their most visually notable non-main animation teams. If you watch this episode, you will very much recognize this animation team. They've done work on some other episodes. I believe in the Nihilenia arc of Stars, they do the Uranus and Mercury episode, among others. That's just one that pops to the top of my head. But it's a very distinctive animation team. Sailor Moon had several animation teams, and some of them had these very visually distinct styles. The only other note I had was that Luna is like, use your Moon Tiara action. And Usagi is, no, my brother's right there. I'm not going to slice him in half with my tiara. And Luna's, then use Moon Tiara Stardust, which apparently she can just throw her tiara. It hovers over the people who are like brainwashed and sprinkles Stardust on them, and they're healed. And I don't know that she ever uses this ever again. But I'm like, I guess she can do that too, even without having her wand. But I love that Luna was just like, chuck your death frisbee at them.
Yeah, my only notes for this episode is that it's boring. It's really boring. This episode
really
is
boring.
I
it is like a lizard lady.
It
and
is,
for
yeah.
some reason, Luna knows that there's a weak spot on its tail. No idea.
My other note is that the horny animators clocked in for this one too. The lizard lady gets an extremely horny transformation sequence.
Yeah.
She hulks out into a monster in a very horny way.
That sure is true.
Yeah, this one can be skipped too, but it's not as egregious as the other ones. It's mostly just a snooze. If anything could have used a dub punch up where they like redub everything, this was the episode to do it with.
Yeah, I think this one was more editable. Like, I think you could still entirely salvage this episode while cutting out the instances of Shingo full on kicking a cat and Usagi full on slapping her little brother. You could have cut those and still maintained the integrity of the episode.
They've cut out longer things. Those are they're both a couple frames. They're not repeat things that happen. And the Deep Dub removed whole scenes. They certainly could have just cut those frames or cut around it or whatever, recontextualize them. If any episode in these first 8 technically sets needed a Deep Dub punch up with a different script, couldn't it have been this one? Did we have to keep the body shaming episode? Why didn't we keep the Evil Pets episode?
Exactly. I could have totally been fine with the Evil Pets episode.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily punch that up.
Maybe that monster transformation was too horny. It was too horny.
Maybe.
Why is it the more we talk, it feels like the Deep Dub is the ghost stories?
Because it is, to be honest. Because it
feels like ghost stories. And by the way, if anybody looked that dub up, I did not recommend it. I said it exists. That's different from recommending. I would never put my name on that anime.
I can't say I recommend it, but I do think you should watch it at least once. To explore the inner contours of yourself. You should
sometimes you need to give yourself psychic damage.
You should just make sure your parents aren't even in the same.
It's for the people who don't know. This is a couple episodes. I think it's a very short series.
No,
it's not. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I've only seen a little bit of it. So it was a whole thing where they did not actually have a localization and the voice actors are just improvising and they're just making up shit the entire time. And it's great for that. But I will say that if you do choose to go watch it, the improvisation is all humor from the early 2000s. Yeah. So with everything that entails. It's the humor, a lot of that humor aged like milk. But I don't recommend it, but I do think you should at least put yourself through it at least once. Maybe not the whole thing, just enough to be familiar with what the fuck we're talking about.
And that's the thing. The sub and the dub have nothing to do with each other.
The dub voice actors weren't given the script. They just were making it up.
You know what? I wonder if Sailor Moon. You know what? We need to read that book that I keep talking about that I own that I just need to sit down and read it.
Called the Moonlight Reflections, Sailor Moon Reflections. That one, the one that what's his name wrote,
Roland.
Yeah, I wrote that down to maybe we can do like a read through and a summary or whatever at the end. This Deke watch through.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, he was one of the Sailor. For those who are not going to.
Yeah, drop a link in the chat for everyone to.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll drop this link. So this is the book, and it's about the behind the scenes of the inside story of the original recordings of the English version of Sailor Moons. You know it had to be wild.
Yep.
It's written by Milden.
Okay, that takes us up to the last cut episode. So take it away with a summary of.
Oh my god! All right,
cassette episode.
This is the actually good episode. It's actually a really cool episode in my opinion. So this is the music cassette tape episode. The conceit of this is that Jadeite has this plan. He's, yo, Beryl, check out my latest plan. You're gonna love it. And she does. This is a cassette tape, and when you play this music, people will fall into a trance and it can steal their energy just by them playing this music. And I love it. Go to print with that. And he's, all right, I'm gonna do it. He sends one of his Yoma with a cassette tape to sneak this cassette tape into like a radio station, I think, or a recording studio. And she like slips it in there. 2 seconds later, while the Yoma is still in there, a woman comes rushing in and she's, oh no, shoot. I want to say his name is Yusuke, but we're going to say his name is Yusuke for now.
It is. Yeah.
She's, oh no, Yusuke will be so upset if I left his demo tape behind. And she grabs the cassette tape out of the player. And the Yoma's hiding in waiting to attack her. But then the woman like leaves the room again with the cassette tape. And the Yoma's, oh shit, that was our evil plan.
Yes,
That's our evil tape. This woman just went off with us. She has to follow this woman. She's like now she's trying to find this tape and get it back. The woman she meets up with, Yusuke, he is an apparently really incredible jazz musician that he's an older guy, but Naru's got a crush on him. And Usagi's, that's weird. He's old. And Naru's not weird. He's distinguished. This is a character trait of Naru's that will carry on through further arcs. And the woman meets up with him. She's, here's your demo tape. I got it for you. And then he's, oh, isn't it your birthday? And then she like gets a call or someone. She's, oh, shoot, I have to go and blah, blah, blah. I can't wait to find out what name you're going to give this song and blah, blah. And she runs off and he's like, but didn't you see it already has a name? And the name is called,
it's like a waltz.
Oh, for Ayaka, or
yeah,
I don't know what her name actually was. We're going to call her Ayaka. It's for Ayaka. And so clearly he's this like shy older man who's got a crush on this woman who is, I don't know, his agent probably. And he failed to confess to her. He was trying, but she has run off. The next scene we see is a rainy day and Usagi's walking down the street with her umbrella and she runs into this guy in his trench coat and he's like running, terrified. And he's, oh my God. And he's, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. She's, I wasn't going to hurt you. Are you okay? And he's, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone who was after me. This is going to sound crazy, but a monster is after me. She's been trying to hunt me down and she's a scary bat woman and she's trying to hurt me. Now this woman she turns into Bass and then she turns into a giant bat. It is genuinely also a really cool, scary Yoma villain. She has been chasing him. She's trying to get the cassette tape that he now has. She does finally succeed in stealing the cassette tape from him. And she stole my demo tape. That was for my true love. I don't think he says true love, but that was for Ayaka. And Usagi's, don't worry. I have to get it back. And Usagi's like, I will help you get it back. Again, all as a civilian. There's like a car chase. He's driving in the car at like breakneck speed. And he's, it's really nice of you to help me, young girl, but why are you doing this? And she's, because I'm a champion of justice, especially for people in love. And he's like, how did you know I was in love? And she's, I saw the title of that tape. And he's, don't you think it's stupid for an old man like me to be in love? And she's, no, I think love is great. And we're going to get that tape back for you. So they get to the studio where now the woman is like, she's gone after Ayaka, and I guess she hadn't taken the tape yet. But she's like, give me the tape or I'm killing this woman. And the guy's like, I guess I have to do it. And so he holds up the tape, he throws it towards her. The monster like chucks him across the room. Luna, I think, gets the tape and breaks it by stepping on it because apparently she's a very powerful magical cat. And Usagi defeats the villain, or Sailor Moon defeats the villain, and you get a cute little scene at the end where the older man is helping his producer lady and she's like, why did you put yourself in such danger for me? Your life could have been over if you lost that demo tape. And he's, Ayaka, my life is over without you in it. And it was like, I was like, oh damn, man. And then the next scene is Naru being like, oh, it's such a shame. Isn't it so sad that Yusuke got married? Or like he's dating someone now, he's got a girlfriend. And she's such a shame he's off the market. He's like, no, it's really sweet. And she's like, why would that be a shame? And Molly's like, because he's so hot. And he's also really brave and kind and caring. And Molly's like, do you know him? And that's the episode. But it's genuinely a really cool episode because it breaks formula. It's all about like, and getting interrupted and completely sidetracked. They never actually get to do the scheme at all.
Yeah. I really want to talk about how wild this episode is.
Because they skipped over some great bits. Go ahead.
Like, my critique of the episode is that despite it being this break from formula and it has a ton of really high points, it's got the weirdest fucking pacing.
Oh,
this episode is weirdly
100%
paced.
Yep.
And so, unfortunately, it ends up being boring, despite the fact everything you just described is 100% true. That's all in the episode. And there's stuff we didn't even talk about that's wild and has so many high points. But like the pacing is off. And the way the story was told in a kind of weird way that sort of winds up being unengaging despite this. So that's if you were like, wow, this episode sounds amazing, I want to go watch it. That's also a warning to you that it's actually a snooze despite this.
It's simultaneously a really cool episode and also like really drags.
Yeah, it really does. I don't know why, but it does.
Yeah. Can you believe an episode in which Usagi goes undercover as a hot young college student, a hot young punk kid in definitely her very coolest disguise ever.
Oh, for sure. She's definitely just Jet.
You have for sure seen it on the internet. It is a total banger of an outfit, and she just goes to watch him play jazz in a bar where she attempts to order a root beer float. And they're like, we don't serve that here. And she's like, oh, well, then never mind. I don't want anything. This episode has all that in it. It has Jedi communicating with his henchmen through a giant pile of old TVs in a junkyard for no reason. It has all of these things in it, and yet it drags. Like, it's an unusual episode.
So here are some of my favorite parts from the episode. First off, at the very beginning, they are listening to the hypnotizing tape that Jadeite is playing for Beryl, but it is playing in the orb. And I thought they were just looking at a cassette tape through the orb, but then it pops out of her orb and it was just playing in there. The orb is a cassette player. It's like the orb is a tape player, also apparently full of liquid. I also really like that this episode is entirely about normal people.
Yes.
And we also have confirmation that like the regular people can in fact see the monsters, especially if it's hunting them down. And it's really more about this older character who's probably like 32.
Yeah. He's like, I'm so
old. Yeah, he's
on the shelf.
He's an adult with a job. He's in his 30s. I'm sure he's... Yep. And then he has this... Just imagine being this like pretty skilled jazz musician who's running the indie circuit. Then all of a sudden you've had a bunch of weird days. You're trying to confess to your manager. And then a Batwoman chases you down an alleyway. And the best thing that happens to you is that you run into a weird middle schooler who's, I'm a superhero and a champion of justice. And you're like, you've been watching too much Power Rangers, kiddo, but sure you are. I love that he just rolls with that. She's just, I'm a champion of justice. And he's just like,
I've seen weird shit today.
Yeah, he just treats her like a kid.
Yeah.
Like I do my note on this alley just says, I suppose if I were in the car with a spunky 14-year-old who's helping me get a thing that I need back, and they were like, I'm Superman, I would be like, of course you are, sweet.
Yep.
Honestly, that's how you just deal with kids. You're like, and I get 14 is not a kid, but it's still a kid.
There's also a cool Sailor Moon moment in this, in the very short part of the episode where she's actually magically fighting. The villain in this case is like using blasting sonic waves at her, and she's, I'm taking concussive blasts from it. And Luna's, there's sonic waves, and they're on like a recording stage, and Usagi grabs like a live microphone and she like chucks it into the sonic waves. So it's then capturing all the sound of the sonic waves that then blast out, amplified from the speaker towards the enemy, and blast the enemy back. And Usagi was like, yeah, you got a double dose of your own medicine. I'm like, I don't know if it would really work that way, but good for you, Usagi. That was very smart.
Yeah, way more high points than the Evil Pet episode.
Oh, 100%. 100%. If you are tempted to check out one of the cut episodes, by far I recommend
this is the one to watch.
We're just warning you, the pacing is all over the place.
Yeah. Well, you're watching it for the high points. You're not watching it for the episode structure, which is poor somehow. Yeah.
They had everything going for them.
Yeah. I gotta say, the first couple filler episodes of Sailor Moon is not the series' best work.
No, this is the problem, is I tried to rewatch the new Viz stuff, and I could not get through the first season. Extra filler just kills me for reason.
The last time I watched through it, I looked up a guide that was just like, here's how to skip the worst of the filler. And yeah, I followed that and it was great. You can look up a watch guide that skips the world's most boring episodes. I highly recommend doing that.
I think that the unfortunate thing is that I think that there is an overall pacing value in all of the early filler episodes before Mercury, because I think that you spend more time establishing the fact that Sailor Moon is capable of fighting on her own and was fully prepared to fight on her own for as long as she needed to, as opposed to in the Deke dub where it feels like she fights on her own twice and then it's, oh, thank goodness Mercury is here. So that is the one standpoint. That is the one standpoint in which I genuinely think that there is a value in showing that Sailor Moon can fight on her own quite a bit. And I want to say she spends the entire first volume of the manga as a solo heroine before Mercury gets added.
It's the next chapter. It's very fast. The manga's very fast. She does, I believe, and my memory is pretty good about this sort of thing. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but it goes right from the incident with Naru's mom and the jewelry shop to Sailor Mercury showing up. That's the next chapter.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly
they're one right after the other. There's no break in between.
Okay.
And so I agree that I would like to see a midpoint, but I don't necessarily know that it needs to be 6 episodes of midpoint.
I don't know that it needs to be 6 boring episodes.
So it's, yeah.
I think if they were 6 bangers, I think that would have been the ideal.
True. Agreed. That if they were 6 bangers, perhaps I would feel differently, but they aren't.
They're also just not. Okay. And don't get mad out there, Moody's. Usagi is not my favorite character. I do not want to spend time with just Usagi.
She's not my favorite character either.
Usagi, as I've gotten older, has risen heavily. She was not my favorite character originally. And I think to the extent, like when I was younger, I wanted to identify with characters that were like super capable and respected by their peers and competent. And so I didn't have an appreciation for Usagi as a character. Now that I'm older, I feel actually, in a way, very strongly protective of her and proud of the fact that she gets to be the hero of a story. Like, I'm now so much more ready to go to the mat for Usagi than I ever used to be when I was younger. I can't say I've experienced that same arc about Chibiusa. She annoyed me back then and she still annoys me now. But with Usagi, genuinely, I've really come to appreciate the imperfections and the complexity of her character. I no longer require all of my heroes and heroines to be perfect or cool or someone whose decisions I think are always the good decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else have anything we want to say about the cut episodes or about the Deke dub? Because I think that's it. I think that's all we got.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
something else to that.
Fire
I
soundtrack.
genuinely think that although I would say the problem with the Deke dub is that the scripting and the edits are bad because they did a lot of censoring and localization that I think aren't good. The voice acting, I think, is almost entirely enjoyable, even though some of the choices are funny. Yes, old British Luna, funny. Random Boston, New York, Naru, Molly, hilarious. But also, the voice acting is good.
It's genuinely good.
Genuinely good.
Oh, you know what?
So yeah.
I was just going to say, what it reminds me of is like Yu Hakusho. It's that same level of good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I think you're right, Michi, about it being an important part of Sailor Moon history, sure. And the reason that I don't know that I'm recommending it is because of the censorship and the cutting and the disrespect that it has to the source material, which then loses a lot of the things that are important to the story's symbolism and meaning. One of the reasons I generally prefer the manga to the 90s show is because of the symbolism, the meaning, the layers of things to interpret there. The manga's got a lot going on, despite it being very briskly paced. I think the manga could have stood to have a little bit more breathing room, but like the depth that the manga has is sometimes missing from the classic show and definitely missing from Deke dub because it was too busy trying to make it palatable to an audience that would have palated it just fine anyway.
Yep. I would say the other thing that I would say on the side of no, it's not worth watching, and no, you can absolutely skip it, is the undeniable, consistent queer erasure throughout. And this is both in Deke and Cloverway. They literally changed a character's gender to get rid of a queer villain couple. They will consistently throughout just straightify anything.
Actually, I think they did it twice.
They did indeed do it twice.
Yes, they've done it more than once, but I was just thinking specifically of Zoisite.
I was thinking of Fisheye.
Yeah,
oh, but
Fisheye
it's absolutely
Fisheye
does.
is yes, but Fisheye isn't in the original Deke dub. Fisheye
True,
is
true,
Cloverway
true,
only.
true. Right.
And as obviously Uranus and Neptune are also Cloverway only. But even just in the original Deke dub,
And-
they were already doing it.
And even with all that, I still recommend it. Just
Yeah, I
'cause
get Go ahead and watch it as a piece of history. Just be aware that's what's going on.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then they player the question for you too.
Oh, definitely watch the original before the Deke dub. I recommend doing what we're doing. and watch one and then the other.
Yeah,
this was a watch along. So if you want to go back and watch the first 5 episodes of the deep dub and the first 8 episodes of the Japanese, then you'll be in the same place we are. And you can write your own notes and we can talk about it on the Discord.
you can join the Discord. We have a Discord. We are ready and raring to chat with people on the Discord. We would love to chat us there or chat down in the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
We will chat with you there.
Okay, so there's also a QR code for the new Discord. It's there. And with that, we come to the end of our show. So thank you for joining us for the first episode of React to Sailor Moon. We have plans in the works after Deke. I am campaigning to do PGSM next, which is the live action Sailor Moon.
We would love to do that.
I would genuinely love to do PGSM.
I think it would be so much fun.
So different, so interesting.
Yeah, so definitely let's do that.
Okay. And as always, our fellow Moonies, you can check us out on all our socials. You can click that link up there to join our Discord. Or rather, scan that QR code. That's not a clickable link. Scan that QR code to join our Discord. And that's a never expires link. So no matter when you're watching this video, you can still join our Discord. Follow us to find the next time we're going live. You can find our links in our link tree and in our description. Don't forget to tune in to Eternal Mooncast stream. Are you streaming again very soon?
Yes, next week we are doing Who is the Real Sailor Pluto? So it is a Sailor Pluto special deep dive, and it is with Sailor Snubs, who is a YouTuber, and a lot more. But I know Sailor Snubs through YouTube.
I follow Sailor Snubs on Instagram. They are, I don't know their pronouns, so they are a big merch collector and keep the fandom up to date on a lot of the merch, which I appreciate.
Yes, so I'm very excited that they have agreed to come on, and I'm excited, and it's going to be Celine, of course, as my co-host, and we're going to do a fun deep dive.
I've been your co-host, Monica, and if you want to know what I'm up to and interested in, feel free to follow me on Dice Wizard. I can read my own URL on Tumblr, and I'm also on Blue Sky. Sometimes I repost Sailor Moon stuff. There's people making cool Sailor Moon stuff on Tumblr still all the time, but often it isn't. Many surprises await you. Follow me out there. I normally plug my podcast, but I'm figuring out what I'm doing with them in 2024. So no plug this time. That information's on my socials, and you can find it if you're really interested. So that's been me, Relia.
I've been your co-host, Relia. If you like what I do and you want to follow me on social media, you can find my most active socials popping up on the screen below. If you want to follow my cosplay adventures, you can find me on Instagram at Relia Lacadamian. If you want to follow my artwork, I'm on Twitter X as Shazari, on Tumblr as Art Crystals, and on Blue Sky as Relia. Thanks, as always, for supporting the show, and stay tuned to find out what ridiculous episodes we will be covering next month. We will also let you know what our release date is for next month's stream. I believe we've already said it.
I think I have it.
Yeah.
I swear it's the last Saturday in February.
Yeah, it would have to be, I think.
February 24th. Okay. As always, I have been your host, Michi. You can find my personal socials at MEW sometimes, or MEW21 sometimes _ across the web. For our parent show, Eternal Mooncast, you can find previous episodes on YouTube. Oh, I should change that to YouTube.
It says YouTube. Oh, your on-screen thing?
Yeah. The next episode coming out is on Monday, and that is our season 2 finale, which was Sailor Moon Fashion Part 2, What the Fuku. And then right now, I am currently editing the episode of the Utena movie was supposed to be about Haruka and Michiru, so that'll be out after the season finale. But we appreciate any likes, comments, follows, subscribes, however you'd like to support our show in your own way. We thank you guys all for being here. This was a ton of fun. I hope you like the new series. Oh, Patreon. That's it. I always forget Patreon.
Yes.
So if you would like to follow the reaction journey, feel free to subscribe to us on Patreon. The QR code should be live. Bishoujo Senshi Slumber Party. And we'll see you for the next episode.
Have a good one.